Welcome to World Dream Day. Today we're talking about breaking the glass ceiling and how to support women to catch their dreams. I'm excited to have with me three fabulous women. I've got Sutapa Banerjee, Chanpreet Arora, and Neha Bagaria. Three women who have pursued their dreams and have broken the glass ceiling. I'll tell you a little bit about each of them. They have a fabulous background. Sutapa has over 30 years of experience. She has spent 24 years in the financial services industry across two large multinational banks, ANZ Grindlays and ABN Ambro, and a boutique Indian investment bank called Ambit, where she built and headed several businesses. In 2012, she was shortlisted in the 50 most powerful women by Fortune India. Currently, she's on the board of several companies, including Zomato, Godrej Properties, JSW Cement, Access Capital, Manappuram Finance, Camlin, and Neogin, I think I butchered that, FinTech. She was also a visiting faculty with IIM Ahmedabad and an adjunct faculty with the IICA, the government think tank under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. She's also a Harvard Fellow. So welcome, Satapa. And joining her is Chanpreet, who's a recognized leader in the Indian media industry. Her work over the last 19 years has spanned across the areas of strategy, revenue, partnerships, and sales operations. She has led the launch and scaling of leading international and local media brands in India, including Vice Media, the New York Times, Formula One, Times Internet, and the Discovery Channel. As the CEO of Vice Media, she led its successful launch, and in 2019, she completed the prestigious fellowship at the Reuters Institute for Study of Journalism at Oxford University. In 2020, she co-founded Resilient Digital Services. Resilient is building a SaaS marketplace for publishers to enable monetization across content, media, data, and programmatic channels. She is currently the SVP and business head of Voot Avon. And joining us is also Neha. Neha is the CEO and founder of Jobs for Her, the largest career portal for women. Neha took a 3.6-year break in her own career when she had her children. And during her personal journey, she became aware of the difficulties that women faced in order to re-enter the workforce and the dismal statistics that women are having in the workforce. She then became committed to the cause of enabling women to restart their careers and founded Jobs for Her on International Women's Day in 2015. So welcome Sutapa, Chanpreet and Neha. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here on World Dream Day. And the first thing I want to ask all of you, and we'll start with Neha and move on, is tell us about you as a dreamer.
What else are we, Sukirti, if we're not dreamers? Because frankly, to do what we are doing today, we all definitely had a dream one day. And then, no matter how crazy we were to dream that, we decided to go ahead and do it. I mean, when I started Jobs for Her, I started Jobs for Her with a dream that we'll be able to bring women at an equal playing field as men in the Indian workplace. And step by step, woman by woman, resume by resume, we will get there one day.
Lovely.
Okay. So Tapa, I'd love to hear about you, the dreamer.
Okay. So I've had a very straitjacketed career as a banker for my first 24 years, doing pretty much money management, managing monies for the rich. I stepped off that corporate treadmill in 2013 and went to school, went to study. Right. And the last 7 years have been really eventful because I studied a subject which has huge ramifications and very practical applications to the world of business. Not just business, it's actually any organizations, which is its applications of behavioral economics. So while I've been doing it for the last 7 years, the way I've pursued it is more in terms of, as Sukriti mentioned, I taught a course at IIM Ahmedabad using that, and we focus specifically on corporate policies linked to gender. I do workshops which are paid assignments for the corporate C-suite, board of directors, CEOs, promoters. What I started doing during the pandemic, and that's really the dream that I want to take forward, I kind of realized that this is a subject which can't remain confined within the realms of academia. It has far too many insights and practical benefits to offer to all of us. So the whole idea, I started writing, I started doing podcasts. I did a session with Lean in India and Sipping Thoughts, which was a much longer session on the subject. And my dream is to make a complex, nuanced subject accessible, simple but not simplistic, and make people understand that it has so much relevance in improving the quality of your decisions, particularly the key decisions. So that's the dream.
Wow.
Lovely.
Lovely. Chanpreet, I want to hear your dream too.
I think the most exciting part of being a dreamer is that you have just one motto in life. Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it's crazy or it's wrong. And I think beyond a point, I just stopped explaining myself to anybody in life on the career choices that I made. Sutapa, very contrary to how you went. I started my career in fintech, and I realized I was very bored. I'm really sorry to share that. I was extremely bored in fintech after the first 3 years, and I realized shaping culture was what got me really excited. My entire degree, career, profession, I was geared to be an investment banker, and I found myself in media. And one of the things that has driven me is how much fun we've had shaping culture, not just by bringing in some of the most exciting B2C brands, whether it was Vice, whether it was Formula One, whether it was New York Times, or even Times Internet, bringing it to the people, but also shaping culture in, like you said, Sudhapa, in corporate, in academia. I'm a passionate academic. I teach at multiple universities, and my entire motto is that culture shapes business and not the other way around. And if we can shape culture, whether it is gender parity or whether it is more openness about what we really want to do at work, the person who comes to work is the same person who actually does take big decisions, which changes the way we lead our lives. I think if we can bring that parity, we can make a huge difference, and we can build a very balanced life and business career out of it.
Very well said.
Fantastic.
Chanpreet, King, over from you. I mean, I want to bring this question to Sutapa, and I'm going to come back to you with it also, Chanpreet. You're a seasoned businesswoman, but let's talk about the glass ceiling. And you have trained so many, you see the C-suite, you sit in so many boards. So does this glass ceiling exist, and what is it that is holding women back? Is it the structure, or is it women, or is it the policies?
Okay. So that's a question I'm asked often. And, one of the things, if you look, it's something which applies globally, but let me also use the Indian context to explain some of the things. There's this apparent paradox in India, and I'll come to glass ceiling, even about women's participation in work, and Neha runs, an organization regarding that, which is abysmal. Right. And yet, paradoxically, if you look at educational qualifications, the number of girls have outstripped boys in graduation and are probably just as we speak, outstripping them even in postgrad. Right. What comes in the way? So it's actually not really a paradox, because study after study has revealed that it is social norms. Right. And if I bring it to, the small 92% of India still works in the informal sector. But here, when we talk glass ceiling, we're talking really the small organized sector, which we are all part of. And in that, really what happens is the association of power is never with women, right? And let me explain that using the subject which I'm fascinated by and in many ways addicted to. So, when I speak in any forum, I want at least a couple of insights and takeaways that people should take. One of them is an acronym called YCAT. What you see is all there is. And all that means is our reality is pretty much shaped by what we see. So if we've seen our mothers at home taking care of us and our fathers going out to work, that's what we assume is normal, right? That's the reality that we're used to. We may read of other things happening in other countries, but that's our reality, right? And evolutionarily, our brain picks up all of those signals and wires that in. So if we see a lot of nurses being women, primary school teachers being women, CEOs in the higher echelons of the finance world being men, that's what we assume is normal, right?
Yep.
What we tend to do is confuse normal with natural or biology. People use the words interchangeably when it's completely incorrect. right? So normal comes from social norms. That's what society has imposed. What is even more dangerous, this is a description of reality, what you see around, is what is very soon becomes what should be. So men are at the higher echelons of finance because they're good at it. That must be the reason why they're there, right? So this is a very dangerous scheme of things. And this is when we talk of glass ceiling, you will always have a few of us who, kind of, people use that as an example to say, oh, so, these people have broken the glass ceiling. Does it really exist? Of course it exists, because if you see the sheer numbers, I mean, there are many things, we've got markers of privilege. There are many things which supported us to get us to where we were, which weren't the case with that many others, right? So that's really the reason. So social norms is really what comes in the way. To me, the much more interesting question is, what can you do about changing social norms? And I don't know whether, I don't want to hog the time. So Kitty, you need to tell me, we can answer that, in your next round of questions. But that to me, so, it is an established fact that it's social norms which comes in the way. How do you break that is a very interesting question where there's a lot of evidence-based research, and I'm more than happy to share that as and when.
We will. We'll be coming out back to you on that. Neha, I want to come to you because now your whole focus is in this sector. From you, where we would love to learn where are we and what needs to be done so that we can actually start to see more women at the top.
Yeah, absolutely, Sukirti. Women in leadership is actually one of our big focus points, because we've realized that till we don't get more women at decision-making seats, we're not going to be able to see the sea change that is required so that we can get more women in to the workplace and get them to rise up their careers. And if you see the kind of numbers that we have in India, at the entry level, companies still have 30% women. But that drops to 10% at the management level, and then it's in the single digits in the C-suite. Yeah. In fact, when SEBI had a rule that you had to have a female board member, so many companies preferred paying the fine than to have a female board member. And that just shows how bad the situation is when it comes to women in leadership. And I absolutely agree that the glass ceiling very much exists. And the thing is, this is a little bit of a vicious cycle, like what the previous speaker also said, that till we don't have more women at the top, it is more and more difficult to get more women over there. And besides, for the social barrier that is holding them back, the problem is also that the rules of the game right now are built by men, for men, of men. Yeah, because the average working person so far has been a man. So if we want to change the rules of the game, we're going to need more women at the top driving those decisions. For example, if you think about many of the policies that we have today, yeah, if you're going to have a 6-month maternity leave and a 0 paternity leave, then forget the social message that you're sending across, which is that, babies are born to mothers and not to fathers. But you're also telling employers that, hey, watch out if you're hiring a woman who might have a baby soon. Yeah. So we need to move those policies into parental leave, for example, to level the playing field. Also, if you look at L&D programs, yeah, we need to figure out what are the things that hold women back from leadership roles and come up with specific leadership development programs for women. If you look at networking rules, which is so important to climb the ladder, networking also happens at the bar, on the golf course, in the men's loo, yeah, or on a smoke break. We need to figure out how can we change the networking rules so that women can be part of those networking arenas as well, which are so critical at driving the conversation forward. So there are a lot of things. I mean, overall, we need to actually change the way workplaces are built and operate if we want to get more women on the top.
Fantastic.
So agree with you. So agree with you. And Preet, the reason I want to hear from you, because you worked in the corporate sector, you started your own venture, you moved from various different organizations, and I see you as one of those women who has actually broken the glass ceiling, and now you're also a woman in a position of power. So I'm going to ask you both questions. How did you do it, and what are you doing for other women?
I'm going to be very candid. I had to fight every step of the way. And it was really hard. And I think the issue is our education system is not equipped to talk about gender equality at the core of it. If you take Finland as an example, and Suketi, you and I both share an affinity for Finland, it took them 30 years to change the gender bias. And they now are moving to the next 30-year plan, which would kick off now, which would have kicked off now in 2021. I remember visiting Finland in 2019, and since 2015, where 25 years had finished, they were talking about how do we now go into the second level where multiracial inclusion would come into play. And according to them, if they started in 2021, it would take them 30 years to get there. That's the time it takes. It takes a full generation plus to make that, right? Which we don't have. And so, like, Neha and Sutapa, what you said, everything is a struggle from the word go, right? Industrial revolution started from white men who had, sorry, I'm not a sexist or a racist, but white men having women and nannies and children at home, everything taken care of. All you have to do is work from 9 to 6 and you're the king of the world. I mean, we're grateful that you get bread home. And here you are, you start with a sorry and you end with a thank you. Sorry, I'm not there for the child. Sorry, I'm not there to look after the house. Thank you so much for pitching in to what I do. The first thing I did, and that's when I broke the glass ceiling, I stopped saying sorry and thank you. I was done. I was like, this is who I am. I'm an ambitious individual who is trying to approach life with a balance, who demands co-parenting at equality, who pushes the social system to support her for her decisions, not because she's asking for a favor, because she's worth it. I am. Yep. And I am not here to win a popularity contest. And let's call a spade a spade. When I am assertive, I am aggressive and ambitious. When you're assertive, Pranay, you're smart, shrewd, and the next cool guy in the room.
No, in fact, I want to jump into that. In fact, I want to jump into that very interestingly. The panel is such an amazing set of women. In fact, such similarities between the way I grew up with a set of extremely strong women around. In fact, to tell you, my Rakhi at our home was not only Rakhi being tied to me, but me tying Rakhi to my sister. So the equality perspective was luckily very induced. And, I worked my life building large HR services firms, some of the top 4 HR services firm in the country. I've been critical members of building since, and most HR services firms those days were women dominated. So I've told that significantly. My bosses have been women, my teams have been women. I've just been that lone guy who just needed to respect women around. And with the family office as an investment banker, Sutapa, you'll be very surprised. Amongst the 8 family office in the UAE, the family office that I represent, Sheikh Qasmi, the CEO is the woman. Only CEO of the family office of the Sheikh Qasmi is a woman. And probably one of the reasons why I understand and correlate that aspect. And Chanpreet, my wife's the publisher, and the fundamental play of recognizing depth. So it's a very interesting perspective that I want to share with you, is that I think one aspect of voicing out opportunity and discord is just so important for all of you guys who are holding the flag to bring that on. But more so for people like me, and I'm not even putting myself in that perspective, but I am taking the brunt for a large part of the men in the room, also in the boardrooms. And I feel so sad when a client signs up with us and pays us an extra 10% on a diversity hire, where capability is the core of the necessary. And we have refused that and said that if we are hiring for the best talent, the talent can't be abreast by the fact of what the gender is. The premise of bringing in value and premise of being objective is not necessarily driven through the transaction itself. It has to consistently drive out of emotion. And you're so right that what you see is what you follow. And you often don't see in Asia, and it's not only an India aspect, it's a very Asia aspect. In fact, I break the world like that. America is capitalistic. Europe is legacy. So the white man in Europe has a different lifestyle. And in Asia, it's all about relationship. And in Asia, if you look across countries, be it China, Middle East, Africa, all across, there is a clear construct of family. That construct of family needs to be fragmented today with a very clear perspective that everybody contributes in an equal manner, not only from a financial standpoint or a culture standpoint or just the emotional context. Men could just get away with the fact of being low on IQ or EQ, but that's just not acceptable anymore. The fundamental play has to be bringing in value which constructs everybody as an equal partner. And all three of you are really not, I won't even call raising the bar. You are the bar to tell people that this is what it is and this is what it should be. In areas which are potentially mature, I mean, publishing is an old business, iBanking is an old business, recruiting is an old business. But how do you really mature the construct of making sure that women are the core of success? And while I use the word mother often, the construct of mothering a balance sheet is not only relevant to profit, but it's also relevant to what you do with your employees and your future set of people that make a legacy out of the ecosystem. So I have this one question out of my small monologue about my feeling about it. What is one thing that you feel that you could change if you thought you were given a blank check when men in the boardroom discuss something and not include women in? So what is one thing that you would change in a corporate life which would make everybody's life easier, even for men maybe?
Let's start with you, Chandri. Oh, so Sutapa, go ahead.
Sutapa. No, let's go with Sutapa first.
Sutapa, you're muted.
Me. Is it unmuted now? Okay. Yeah. So when Pranav, and I actually wanted to also use this to some of the very interesting stuff. I really loved what some of my co-panelists Neha and Chantrit said, and what you followed up with Pranav, and I want to touch upon a few of those things. But let me come to your question. So when I joined the board, so I'm a beneficiary of this legislation, Women on Corporate Board, even though I had 24 years of experience. And initially I was a little miffed that why do I want to go into a board and these guys are approaching me because they need a woman on the board, right? It makes anybody who has a professional background. And then the whole point is, and I today have a very different view of that, is that there are occasions when legislation is required. There are occasions when behavioral nudges are required. There are occasions when incentives are required. None of that is to lower the bar of merit, but it's because it is never salient, right? That's why I spoke about YCAT. You've never seen women on board. It will never enter recruitment firm, not yours, Neha, but others, to suggest women unless that legislation was made. So the point is, so I stepped into many of these boards where the board had only one woman, right? There are a couple of them or three of them today, where I'm still the sole woman, but in the rest, and I sit on 9 boards, there are more than one woman. See how quickly it's changed. I entered the first board in 2015, just after 2016, just after I came back from Harvard. So I'm a beneficiary, but not exactly that year, because the rule came in 2014, right? What has helped with the first bunch of women, at least in Indian boards, is that all of us were successful in our careers, where most of the people that we interacted with were men, right? All my life in ABN AMRO, both in the India management team, I was the sole woman till another came along. And I spent 14 years in that bank. In the Asia management team, as part of the private wealth business, I had a lot of women because, in the Far East, in the Southeast Asian countries, there are Hong Kong, China, there are women, but not in India. Now, that was normalized for me, and that had both good and bad. I didn't question why there weren't so many women. So I also want to make the point that biases exist in both men and women. Just replacing men by women will not change, right? Because there are other dynamics around that. So I didn't stop to question it. Now when I look back with the wisdom of what I know now, I would have actually done recruitment very differently. I would not have just said that, open the doors and whoever is the best comes, for the job comes in. I would have actually gone out and said, hey, look, get me at least 40% women, which is what I do now on boards, right? When we are recruiting a key hire, I do that. And that's important. So it's also important to recognize that these were the things which got normalized. And as I said, this first bunch of women, because we've been so used to dealing with men, I was not intimidated when I walked into a board. I may have been a little bit the first time because I was first time in a board, but I very quickly started asking questions. It's a new business to me. My first board was in the infra sector. I had no idea, right? But I took it on because I'm always very keen to learn. And particularly the last 7 years have been, learning about many different things from my straight-jacketed investment bank and private banking area. So a lot of questions you ask, and it actually sparks a lot of questions in a lot of the directors who are sitting there, which is extremely important because a lot of the issues happen on boards because you don't question, right? And I'm talking here strategy, I'm talking here compliance, I'm talking here ethics, everything. You don't accept, you ask questions, you learn. So that's important. So in the first bunch of women who got into boards, I don't think, like me, and we have our own networks, none of us were intimidated. The reason being, we've all sat in boardrooms where we were the sole woman. Yeah. I mean, we've taken clients, out to, I remember to one trip to Amsterdam, there were 120 people, including clients. Out of that, in a dinner, I was the sole woman, right? And it just suddenly struck me that mine is the only voice which sounds different, right? That's when the realization hit me, right? And the only other woman was one of my clients' wives and who had been unwell that day. Otherwise, in that 121 people contingent, India, UAE, and Pakistan, those were the three countries. That was what it was. And I'm not talking very long ago. I'm talking 2007-8, during my period at ABN AMRO. But I just want to actually sort of use this to one superb example which Neha gave about how do you change social norms? And she spoke about something which is also my pet peeve, the 6-month maternity leave, right? Because I think it has caused a lot of harm in the Indian context, right? And absolutely, it needs to be parental leave. And there are a few progressive companies which have done that. And one of them has actually, I sit on one of their boards and they've asked me, but men are not taking it. And my point is, that is where in a toolbox, you have legislation, you have incentives, and you have something which is not known in India at all, and which is the subject I sort of talk about, which is behavioral nudges. And this is completely a science-based, empirical evidence-based, research-based subject. And the point is, it will, if you have it in the rule book and keep it there, nobody is going to use it. So let me give an example of how do you upturn or how do you change the social norm on its head. So, and that was my advice, that now you have high potential people, young people who are becoming parents, right? And as Neha rightly said, you co-parent. A child is as important as in the early years. Yeah. For proper mental cognitive development, both parents need to be there. It's not only that a mother is required because mother is the nurturer. So I said, you have high potential men, people who the organization, the rest of the youngsters look up to, right? Induce people to take leave. And there are many who actually now want to contribute and be there with kids. Once you've got a few to take it, and then go out and celebrate it, talk about it in the town halls, say that, once you do that, what have you done? We've all got, and I hate using jargon, but I'll use one or two. There's this herding instinct that we all have, right? We don't want to be left behind. Even if your own beliefs are old-fashioned, nobody wants to be left behind, particularly if a high potential person who is liked by the organization, who's looked up to, does something which is different from what they do. So even if they come with old-fashioned beliefs, you don't need to wait for years and centuries for cultural norms to change. In one fell swoop, within the boundaries of that organization, you would have seeded a new norm, right? Yeah. That's how you change social norms. And it happens all the time. We become very clean when we are in a place which is clean. We litter when we are in a place where we can afford to litter, right? So we do what people like us do. So now this is science, right? But it is, and I have no qualms in admitting 8 years ago, I didn't know any, right? I went off to Harvard, I studied a subject, and I found tremendous gems which can be used to decisions, investing decisions, and decisions of the kind that we're talking about. And the point is to be able to use them smartly. Shouting from the rooftops is not going to change anything. It's great to do what Chanpreet is doing, but many will shy away from doing it. Many will lack the confidence. Early career years, many are not very sure. They don't have the support system. So this is what an organization can do. Our organization is completely, as somebody said, gendered. It is made for men by men, and it's a 1950s workplace. You know, when people talk about flexi time, it has to be given to everybody. All of us need a life, men and women. Why should it be given to only women, new mothers? That immediately takes away the leveling of the playing field, and there is some kind of backlash, you know, which starts from.
Neha,
sorry, I've taken up so much time. Yeah.
No worries, Neha. I want to pick your mind to that, specifically when you're working with new age women and building an entire credible career for them. They're also working very closely with partners, women partners who are in the gig economy space, talking to you on various different kind of partnerships that they want, just like any other people. What are the ways that you have really encompassed and advised them to really fit into a corporate culture in ways where otherwise they would have really felt that they are not a fit on and pushed to make careers and made them successful?
Sure, Pranav. In fact, that's a great topic for discussion in today's day and age because the world has completely changed. Yeah, like what Sutapa is saying. Pre-COVID, flexibility used to be treated like a bad word. You know, we used to say that we used to actually advise women that don't step into an interview asking for flexibility. First, sell your capabilities. Later on, when that employer wants you, then tell them that, okay, you need some flexibility. Today, it's all changed. Yeah, because everybody expects flexibility like a birthright, you know, and the millennials are driving that too because they want flexibility, and it's not a gendered issue anymore, which means suddenly a plethora of opportunity has opened up for women because it was the one thing that was holding women back. This need for flexibility and this mindset of employers that we can't give flexibility. Yeah. So in fact, we recently ran a poll on JobServer and we had about 3,000 women answering it, where they said about 50% of the women were expecting that in the new world of working, it will be a hybrid way of working. Yeah, so it will be a combination of working in the office and working at home. About 40% of them are hoping to continue working from home completely. And only the remaining about 8% of them were looking at full-time, going back to full-time work, full-time in the office. Yeah. So I feel like that we're not, the post-COVID world is not going to go back to the pre-COVID world.
Absolutely.
And mainly because, and I'm sure Satapa and Chanpreet will also agree to this, that again, because businesses have realized this is good for their bottom line.
Absolutely.
Suddenly, they don't need to have one space allocated to each resource of the company. So your infrastructure costs come down. Also, commuting costs have gone down. Time saved becomes, working hours instead. Productivity has gone up. So this whole, like, women who wanted to work as gig workers, work from home part-time, the big shift that we saw was earlier the kind of jobs that we used to get for work from home were always low entry jobs. Yeah, with very salary. It was data entry, telesales, content writing. Now, since last year, we've been having work from home roles in the highest paying roles. Yeah, you've got SAP consultants, project managers, UX designers. And that what is also one big benefit that's doing is it's opened up so many opportunities for women who are in tier 2 and tier 3 India. Yeah. Because over there weren't that many job opportunities. So we're really thinking that this move towards flexible workplaces will be like the breaking of the dam when it comes to women in the workplace.
You know, in fact, Neha, just to add to that, I was telling you about my personal influence as someone who started their career with women around. I have been a proponent of no leave and attendance process. The reason why that was the case not only, I mean, within Mirai, that is clearly the base, but also organizations that I have sat on boards of, I have consistently driven the concept of no point of having a leave and attendance perspective. The reason why I have been consistently driving that is because I work with women, and I was bred with professional women around. And for me, the objective of leave and attendance just did not make sense, because the fundamental play of responsibility which women took was always of a far more higher order than just judging them on coming to office at 9 and going at 5 o'clock. And I very clearly always saw that, the objective was largely met. They always took out time. So what does the construct of taking a leave, or even in larger construct that when you take a leave, you're still working on a leave, is a perspective in some ways. So women have really driven the perspective. And today, leave attendance, work from home is really an amalgamated approach of making an impact. And I have worked with organizations and I've driven that construct, which have been significant to the fact. And it is highly profitable because it not only generates trust, but it also opens up people who you typically would not hire because of this entire geographical construct, or also your larger than life expectation of spending 9 hours of productive time, which is definitely not productive. And how can you bring in the construct of those 3 hours of an individual who wants to focus for you, but you are not interested in that person because he or she is not fitting the bill. So we drive that very, very objectively. And that's one of the reasons why we are very, very adamant in bringing the value of saying that how important it is to make sure that you mother, and I use the word mother, not only to mother the business, but mother the job that you have taken. And I think that comes with a sense of responsibility, which women really, really bring on a natural curve, with obviously people like you being the bar of it. So Chanpreet, fundamentally, please.
Yeah, I agree with everybody on the panel, but I have a slightly different take on how it happens at the executive level. So Tapa, you bring in a strong board experience. I'm at the executive. I largely spend my time at the executive. And so Kirti, you asked me a very important question. What have you changed and how have you changed? I just want to start with a couple of things that may come across as a slight shock. I am the head of business in Viacom Digital Ventures. The company is in Bombay. I am in Delhi. I put my foot down and I said, I'm not moving. It took me a long time to explain it to them, but kudos to the company to accept that I am the traveling parent. It is not my husband. We've chosen to be close to his work, not mine. It is a possibility. There are two very successful people in a relationship, and it is possible, and organizations and HR has to accept it. But I'm also sharing with you, for the one company that did give me this job at the executive level, because I am the best talent, I don't want to compromise, is my approach in life. There were 5 who said no, who refused to accept my status. This is within the COVID 2 years of COVID, I'm telling you that. So while we may hope that the reality changes at the executive level, because this is about breaking the glass ceiling, we have to be at it. The other most important thing that has fundamentally changed, and another shock statement to you, is that when I joined Wise, by the time I was done, 90% of leadership was women. And we hired one guy.
Wow, that's kudos. Wow. That's fantastic.
I want to share with you why that happened and how it happened. I brought in a no gender bias recruitment policy. When I took this, when I took the office of the CEO, I took the office of the CEO. Every day, Chanpreet went and assumed office, and then Chanpreet came back. There's no gender. There's absolutely no gender of the CEO's office, because when I take a job, I have to deliver on that role. I could be a mother, I could be not a mother. Women has nothing to do with just being a mother or not being a mother. I could be married, I could be single, I could be a hardcore party animal, I could be anybody. That's my personal existence. That has nothing to do with my job. Can I deliver my job? Whether you're a man or female, it doesn't matter to me. Whether you have a child or you don't have a child doesn't matter to me, as long as you can present to me what are you in a package. Everybody has unpredictability in their life. Somebody has parents, somebody has children, somebody has a passion of skydiving. To me, it's all the same, as long as you deliver. And as long as I know what to expect. So yes, co-parenting, I don't want to go there again because I know both of you explicitly spoken about it so beautifully. Whether it's co-parenting, whether it is reaching out to a sibling to say, help me take care of an aging parent, it's all the same. Once you remove gender and you just look at a role for what it is, you will populate the right talent. And we also take away the pressure of that person having to hide an aspect of their personality, life, or responsibility which defines them actually, and we take the pressure off them, right, Pranav? So if I have a child, I have children, right? I made it up front. I am going to deliver on this job. You want 70% growth, I will deliver, but I am a mother of two, and you've got to accept that, right? And I could have been a single mom. I could have not been a mother, but the glass ceiling is still there. It's got nothing to do with parenting, right? So I just want to say, like, let's not look at gender at all. That's the change we can bring, because I don't want to fight for the second best. I don't want to fight at all. You have a job, I have the talent. Let's make it happen. It's serenity.
Yeah, perfect, awesome. What an awesome statement. I love that. Sukirti, do you want to summarize the session? I think we're close to running off our time.
Before I summarize the session, I'd love to get their one piece of advice that they would like to give to women. And then, I think they've all said it so beautifully. We'll
Fantastic.
Start with one piece of advice.
So this is to women. So we're not talking here organizationally what needs to happen. This is to specifically women. That's your question, right? Yes. So, there's one attribute so there's one attribute which is attributed to women, which is that they're not as confident as men, right? To me, that means that they have self-doubts. And I actually want to speak in favor of that, right? Because I actually believe self-doubt is good. Rather than being high conviction, what that makes you, it makes you open-minded. It makes you gather more data. It makes you seek out more opinions. You do a few things to be able to garner more confidence, which a man may essentially not do because he's used to pushing himself forward, right? It's again social conditioning. There's nothing biological about this. So as long as we keep that difference in mind. But even if social conditioning makes you do that, I have come to believe that self-doubt is something that we all need to have. That is what stops you from impulsively jumping to a conclusion on anything, be it a job, be it a decision. The first impulse is never the best one, right? So I'm speaking here against the gut instinct for a variety of reasons when it comes to key decisions, and which is, what behavioral economics actually teaches you. And here I think women can use this to their advantage by doing all of the background work, gathering data, which helps them build confidence. So you come across as a far more sorted individual, whether you're asking for a promotion, whether it's in an interview, whether it's in anything, rather than being overconfident and saying, yes, I know it all, which is so that's one advice.
Yeah. Neha?
I think my advice, Sukriti, would be that women need to grow a very thick skin and a very strong support system. Yeah, because no matter what you're doing, you're going to feel judged. If you're not working, you will feel judged that you're not working. If you're working some of the time, then you'll feel judged that you're working very little hours. If you're working a lot, then you will definitely feel judged that you're working so much. So we just need to grow a thick skin and surround ourselves with a very strong, positive support system. Yeah, and if we can't find that support at home in our families, if we don't find those believers at home, which of course would be ideal, then we need to find them outside the home. Yeah, those could be our neighbors or our children's friends' parents or our colleagues or our family friends. But everybody needs that set of people who are constantly pushing her up instead of dragging her down.
Fantastic.
And
I'm going to say what I started with. Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it's wrong. You've got to ask for help, and you've got to keep edging forward. That's
awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I learned so much. I mean, definitely, we all know the glass ceiling is still there. We are making progress, but I also feel for the last 30 years, we are talking about the same issue, and we have a long way to go. I think some of my key takeaways is we have to stop looking at it as gender and looking for the best talent, and policies, especially when we focus, need to be gender neutral. So something we should not be putting in place that is only for women, because we think we're doing them a service, but it actually becomes a disservice. And I love the word, let's all nudge the system and start asking and telling and saying this is what we need. And like Chanpreet rightly said, just because it's not been done doesn't mean it can't be. And we need to be the people that they see so people can say, yes, it can be done and I will do it.
And also, just to add, keep being the benchmark. You guys are fantastic, and love to have you speak more, but in the quest of time, thank you so much for coming and spending your evening. I hope you had fun. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This is great.